Welcome to Preeminent Test Prep. Today I'll be taking you through how I scored a 1590 on the SAT without spending any money. Alright, so my background. I did not attend a private school or pay for any private tutors. I had attended a small to mid-sized public high school. My class size is about 186. I'm currently ranked 1 out of 186 in my class for weighted and unweighted GPA. I never had a private SAT tutor. They're very expensive, and in my opinion, it's just a situation where if you don't have the money, you don't have the money. You can't get a private SAT tutor, so you don't spend money and you study on your own. I never bought a prep book, a prep course, or prep material, and I was not some math savant that was years ahead and doing calculus as a freshman or anything. I took pre-calculus in my junior year of high school. I was not in anywhere where I was super far ahead of everyone else. So my progression on the PSAT to the SAT, I got 1190 when I took it as a freshman in the fall of my freshman year. And then I actually dropped by 10 points going to the spring of my freshman year. So I dropped down to 1180. And then in my sophomore year in the fall, I got a 1280 on the PSAT. And then in my spring of my sophomore year, I got a 1350 on the PSAT. Now keep in mind, at no point in my freshman or sophomore years did I study for the PSAT. This was all just improvements from taking classes and making sure I paid attention in my math classes, my English classes, so that I improved on the PSAT just from learning more in English and math as a result of my classes. There was no prep work done for the PSAT on my part. That is until I took the National Merit Scholarship qualifying test. At that point, I spent about 1 or 2 weeks before that test preparing for that PSAT, and that was in my junior year in the fall, and I got a 1420 on that test. Keep in mind, I only spent about maybe an hour or so every day for about a week or two preparing for that test, so certainly not any significant prep work on that test. And then after that, I was expecting to take the SAT in March of my junior year, so that would have been March of 2020, but that got canceled because of COVID. So I had spent about 3 months preparing for about an hour to 2 hours per day, and that 3 month span leading up to that March SAT I thought I was going to have. So I went into that SAT, if it would have been there, I would have been fairly prepared for it, but it got canceled. At that point, I went ahead and I took a couple months off, didn't study for the SAT, and then the August 29 SAT kind of creeped up on me because I was working over the summer and didn't have time to study as much. So I only went into that test with about 3 weeks of prep, and I could definitely tell that I was rusty, and I got a 1550 on that SAT. So after that, I knew that I got a couple questions wrong before I even got my results back. So I started really prepping a lot for the next 3 weeks before that September 23rd and September 26th SATs, and I ended up scoring perfectly on the math section on both of those SATs, with my highest score in total being 1590 on September 26th of 2020. So how did I improve my score? So number one, I made it a priority. So when I got 1420 on that PSAT, I decided, hey, I want to get into a competitive school, a competitive college or university, and I know in order to do that, it's going to help me if I have a higher SAT score. So I decided to make it a priority for myself to improve that score, to improve my chances of getting accepted to a better school. So I made it a priority, and that meant I had to take practice tests. But it wasn't about just taking practice tests. It was about taking practice tests and then studying what I got incorrect and why what I said or chose was incorrect. It was about finding why the correct answers were correct and how I can get to those correct answers faster in the future without making mistakes. It was about honing in my strategy based on taking these practice tests and seeing where I'm making errors, what's slowing me down, and figuring out problems and then solutions to those problems. All right, I learned the grammar rules. For the SAT writing section, you have to know your grammar rules. If you don't know grammar rules, such as sentence structures, where punctuation needs to go, where punctuation can't go, how to use apostrophes, then it's really going to hurt you. You have to learn the grammar rules in order to succeed on the SAT writing section. So I learned the grammar rules. That was a big part of me improving my score. I learned math rules, patterns, tricks, and tips. On the math section, you have to know how to do algebra. You have to know how to interpret graphs. So part of the SAT math section, though, is that there is, if you look at the practice tests, there are question types, not questions exactly, but question types, similar questions to each other that are repeated across different practice tests. Once you learn how to solve those and kind of tricks you can use to solve them faster, it really helps you improve on the math section. So the math section, you have to know how to solve problems, but also how to solve them quickly. And part of that is learning tricks that you can use to solve things quickly in fewer steps, so that way you can get to the right answer faster. All right, I also learned, studied, practiced, and implemented reading strategies. So for the reading section, every reading section is going to be different, but the question types on the reading section can be the same from practice test to practice test and from SAT to SAT. For example, you have to support your answers with evidence. So what you need to do is you need to learn how to get to that evidence faster and how to make sure that it's the correct evidence to answer the question. You have to be able to interpret claims and tone in order to examine the big picture of the reading sections. So you want to learn these strategies you can use on the reading section in order to move through it quicker and find the right answer and eliminate questions that are half right. Because questions that are answer choices that are half right. Answer choices that are half right are wrong. An answer choice on the reading section has to be completely correct in order to be the correct answer. All right, on the math calculator section, I learned to use my calculator appropriately. And what that means is I'm not overusing my calculator, and I'm not underusing it. If you're overusing your calculator, you're wasting time where you could be doing mental math to find the answer faster. And if you're underusing it, you're doing too much handwriting and not enough use of the calculator. And that's going to slow you down. So how did I minimize my costs? So keep in mind, throughout all my SAT prep, I didn't spend any money. The only money I think I might have spent is on number 2 pencils, and that's just because that's required for the SAT. And obviously on the SAT itself, because the SAT costs something like, I'm not going to speculate on how much it costs, but it costs money to take the SAT, as you know. So how did I minimize my costs? Well, I printed off my free SAT practice test from the College Board at school, right? So printer paper and printer ink, it can cost a fair amount of money, and these practice tests, they're about 50 pages. If you do it front and back, then it's something around 30 or 25, but I printed off these practice tests at school to save money on the paper and the ink. So that's one thing I did. I also used Khan Academy. Khan Academy has partnered with the College Board, so the College Board has worked with them to create test questions, so that these questions are going to be similar to the ones you'll see on the SAT. So those questions are very realistic, and I find that they were helpful. I would caution you on the SAT writing part of Khan Academy. There are some questions where it's about syntax or specific parts of the writing section, and I would say that those are much easier, in my opinion, than what you will see on the SAT. So instead, for the writing section, I would recommend using the passages that they have on Khan Academy, because I feel like those are more accurate for what you'll see on the SAT and SAT practice tests. But I would highly recommend their math sections. I think that they do a good job of putting out realistic questions, and the same with the reading sections. All right, I also used YouTube. Now, there's not a lot of SAT tutoring available on YouTube right now, which is why I'm launching right now as we speak a 90-day SAT prep series on YouTube. So you can find that. It'll probably be linked in the description, or you can find it on our channel. There'll probably be a playlist of 90 videos in the next couple months as I release them. So I would highly recommend that. I have practice tests available with answer explanations. So the practice tests that the College Board has, I have answer explanations in video format on my channel. You can find those. I have me going through SAT practice tests at like double the speed that you need to. So like for the math no calculator section, I'll answer all the questions in under 10 minutes. So I have a few videos on that. Same with the math with calculator section. I have videos where I go through that very quickly to show you how to improve your pace. So there's that on YouTube. I Googled grammar rules and definitions. So that's the other thing. Like I said, you need to know grammar rules and definitions. You need to know subject-verb agreement, all of those types of things. And there's a ton of English content on the internet. So if you're ever having trouble with grammar rules, you can go ahead and Google that. They're very helpful. There's a bunch of English teachers online. They'll explain it. All right, I researched how to improve my SAT score on the internet. So what this means is I would look up top scorers and what their advice was, right? What they looked for. I wanted to get inside the mind of people who were scoring very high on the SAT. So what I would do is I would go to sites like Prep Scholar and similar sites like that. I would look at articles from top scorers detailing what they did to get their top scores, and I would try to emulate the parts of that I found worked for me. And that's what I try to do in the 90-day prep series that I'm releasing, is I try to give you insight into what I look for on the SAT and what other top scorers look for on the SAT to find the correct answers faster and more efficiently. So what are my recommendations for you? So here's what I would recommend if I were preparing for the SAT as of now. I would recommend watching Preeminent Test Preps videos. Those are the videos that I'm releasing. I try to give you insight into what I look for on the SAT, the setups that I see, the question types, how I go about attacking questions, in the sense that I see a question, I take this strategy that I've learned, I apply it to find the answer quickly, efficiently, and accurately. So I would highly recommend watching our videos. We've got a 90-day SAT series that's coming out right now. We've got practice tests that are uploaded where we go through practice tests, walk through them, give answer explanations, tell you why certain answers are incorrect, why certain answers are correct, try to give you more insight into what to look for. I would also highly recommend you take these practice tests. So don't just go look at certain practice tests. Actually take them. Make sure that you're taking practice tests. You have to take them, sit down the full 3 hours, simulate realistic test conditions, a quiet space, a desk and a chair, paper, pencil, print off the practice test, go through it. You can get the College Board's app and then take a picture of your answer sheet and it'll score it for you. But then you need to evaluate why your answers were incorrect and why the correct answers were correct. And you can use our videos for that as well, because we have videos up for most practice tests. We have videos up for all the writing and language sections of the first 10 practice tests and all the math no calculator sections. And we'll be releasing more for the reading and for the math with calculator as time goes on as well. So also, you should be eating healthy, not just the night before the SAT, but throughout your preparation for it. If you're eating healthier, you're going to be able to think better. And when you can think better, you're going to be able to focus more on the problems and you'll be able to recall more information. So you want to make sure that you're eating healthy, don't be eating junk food, you want to stay focused. You want to avoid test anxiety and trust your preparation. You want to enter into the SAT feeling prepared. You want to enter into the SAT feeling calm and ready and focused. Don't be second guessing your answers the whole test, because then you're just going to run out of time because you can't make a decision. You want to be decisive. You want to use the text on the reading section to confirm your answers. And you want to just stay calm, know that you can always take it again, and know that it's not the end of the world if you don't get a good score. Just trust your preparation and stay calm. You got to trust yourself. If you answer a question and you went into this test with a lot of preparation, say you took the 90 days of the SAT series that we're putting out, and you feel very prepared, trust your answers. Don't second guess yourself all the time. You got to make sure you can answer all the questions. So if you're second guessing yourself on one question, you need to make sure you answer it and move on, and then you can come back to it later. You got to trust yourself. But at the same time, on the reading section, you can always trust the text as well, because all answers have to be supported by the text. So you can use that to help you as well. So make sure to subscribe, like, and share. Check out our channel for more SAT prep, AP class tips, college application tips. There'll be links in the description if there's any private tutoring that I'm offering, any application consulting I'm offering, and also a donation link when it's up and running. You can check out our channel for practice test, answer explanations, for the 90-day SAT series, any other tips that we have. So thank you for watching and have a great day.